What's up, everyone? Today we have a Exmark 30-inch mower. It's basically the same as a Toro Time Master with a few additions and engine differences and whatnot, but we're not going to worry about those. We are going to worry about the belt. Owner gave it to me and said belt broke. That's pretty self-explanatory on what needs to be done. As you can tell, the belt has been getting a little worn. Something that you want to check when you're doing belts is what's the reason why it broke. Is it because it's old? Is it because if you have like a bearing, is a bearing seized? Is there a reason why? I think this is going to be kind of us figuring out why it broke. I'm assuming it's because of age, judging by the wear, but I want to do a couple things beforehand. So first things first, I'm going to take off this cover. You don't need to remove these side panels, but you do need to remove this. This is going to be a real big hindrance and just going to be on our way. Just 2 1/2-inch on both sides, and this whole thing comes right out. Not that big of a problem. You don't have to remove, like I said, this bar right here. If you have a Time Master, you don't even have that, so you don't have to worry about that. So I'm just going to go ahead and remove that. In addition, there's 4 7/16, or they could be 10mm, don't quite remember. There's also one back there. And then at that point we can take off this little shield and we will have access to what we need to see. Well, hold on there. Over 90% of you, according to YouTube, are not currently subscribed. You're watching this video, but you're currently not subscribed. So I'm going to welcome you to subscribe at the end if this helped you out. I work on a lot of machines, so maybe the machine you're watching is going to be something you own, but who knows? Maybe you own a generator, a pressure washer, a big mower, a chainsaw, a variety of things. The only way to know if I'm going to fix it in the future is by subscribing, and maybe I get to the one that you own and can help you out then too. So I welcome you to subscribe, put a thumbs up if it does help you out. Back to your normal video. I'm going to try to do this with one hand, but over here there's like a little lip you just have to get over. Once you get over that, pretty good. Then if you kind of shimmy it this way, I think we're getting stuck on this side. Yep. We can indeed take off this little cover with minimal swearing. Okay, and as you can tell, we do have a broken belt. So I want to spin these. That spins freely. This one's going to be a little more difficult, but what did I just hit? Well, whatever it was, it's gone now. I don't think I have anything underneath it. Not yet. Okay, we'll check underneath, and maybe the blade hit something and it caused the belt to break, which is a possibility. So what we're going to do is we're going to put the belt on. That's going to be a tad bit on the difficult end to show, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to take off this bracket. It's a 210s. This bracket comes off. This belt can be pushed off to the side, and then we can reroute it. And technically, we can move this tensioner back and forth if we need to. We probably will. It can be a little difficult because, it's dirty and whatnot. So I'm going to go ahead, get that taken care of, and we'll be right back. I have removed the little plate that was here, and this belt can just be moved off to the side. Something you do want to do is pull down the handle, so the cable, because then the brake that usually comes over here and is touching this to stop the blades from moving will be out of your way. Now, something that is very important is this is a timed belt, which means there's teeth on it. It moves the blades in a very specific way. That specific way is important because if you mess it up, you are going to definitely ruin the blade. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain. I'm going to put this up a little bit, a couple blocks or something. That way I can get my hand underneath it. At this point, I'm going to take like a marker. I want to mark how the blades are going to be set. What I mean by that is, so let's say the blade is going like this. I'm going to put a mark right here and on the back. That way I know the blade is like this. When it comes down, I have the belt installed. We need to have one going in this direction and the other going in this direction. That way when it spins, they're never going to be interfering with each other. It's a little hard to explain, but I'll show you once it's done. So I'm going to go ahead, figure out what orientation the blades are in right now, mark everything, that way we can get to working. Okay, I have it all marked. This one is going like so, this one is going like this, so we should be good to go. Or I guess this is whatever degree that is. Anyway, now belts. Let's talk about belts. At the time when I purchased this from the dealer that I go through, I paid about $78, roughly $80. You can get a Sten's belt online for about half of that. I think it's like 36 bucks. Now, Sten's makes a good product. Don't get me wrong. I use Sten's products a lot. However, in this situation, I've noticed when you go with a Sten's belt, it's going to potentially have a little bit of a problem. I don't really know why. I've replaced more Sten's belts than I have the original belt. So when you're able to spend the extra money and get the original belt, which this is, it's the official Exmark belt. And let's get the part number here real quick. The part number is here. 120-3335 or 522-636-228-10715, so on and so forth. Now that I have it ready and available, I'm going to see if I can do this without moving the tensioner or putting it on the tensioner. So I'm going to do as follows. I'm going to put the belt on, and then I'm going to leave it kind of dangling over this one, or perhaps even this one, I don't really know, or the idler. And I want to see if I can do it without actually having to move it. If not, we will have to. I guess it's not that hard, but you know, if I don't have to adjust whatever this, you have to loosen that and it moves back and forth. It's a small step. You know what, I'll just do it. I think that's a 1/2 inch, and then we can go ahead and just move it whatever distance we need, and we should be fine. So I thought I could do it without having to remove the top of the pulley. You can't. I don't want to damage the belt. This gives us just enough room, so I did remove the top of it. Now, having said that, this makes it easier for us, so if you didn't mark anything yet, don't. This hole is where the blade should be. So if you can tell, the blade should be going like this on this one, and on this one, you can even tell the blade next, well, the mark is pretty close to the hole. I mean, it wasn't exact, but also you could kind of tell there's these little slots in the top. That also kind of tells you where the blade should go. So that's at least better. So now we can kind of route it and put it together. So I thought we could do it, but you probably could. I just don't want to run the risk of damaging a tooth, because then it could possibly start skipping. And there you have it. It's on. That's the routing of the belt. Goes around here, goes through these two little posts, through this idler, and goes around onto this spindle, and so on and so forth. That's the tensioner. Okay. Way I did it, not gonna lie, I've done this 100 times before. Okay, maybe not 100, but anyway, you put the belt on this one. Then when you get to the point where you're gonna put the belt on this spindle, you get it timed, lined up, and you get a few teeth on there. Then you take a ratchet. What is this? This is a 3/4, and you put it on top of the spindle, and then you turn it so the belt kind of glides on. Do it slowly and make sure it doesn't rip. But as long as everything's good to go, you should be fine. Then you make sure, so right now, that's the way the blade's going this direction, and if we did it right, we have the blade going that direction. So now, when we spin it, we shouldn't get any interference. Nope. And this isn't 100%, so if you're like a tooth off, you can be super anal about it. I think this one probably is a tooth off, because that's straight, mostly. Yeah, it's like one tooth off, but, you know, you have a pretty good leeway of space. 1 or 2 teeth, you're fine. Anything more of that, don't bother about that. So now, your belt is good. If you did do the tensioner, then what you need to do is you need to put it back into tension, tighten the retaining bolt, and you're golden. I'm going to spend a little bit of time. Also, in order for me to get the pulley off, I did have to remove the air cover. You don't necessarily have to. I found it to be easier, especially when filming. So know that this is pretty much in line, and it's going to be a little difficult. So just to save yourself a little bit of a headache, 2 10mm nuts, 10mm bolt, and the breather tube comes right off, and you have a lot more access. You just have to worry about these 2 studs, in which cases get a longer extension and you're fine. I'm going to put everything back together, and then what we'll do is we will probably turn the machine on its side, or at least flip it over and verify that everything is good to go. If it is, then we will put the cover back on, and we will give it a test turning on and blade engagement. And as part of the clarification, sometimes this belt will come off the pulley, so when you put it back on, check if it's on the actual pulley that's on the crank, because if it's not, you won't have any engagement whatsoever. How this ends up working is this belt is usually loose, and when you pull on the handle, that cable with that spring on it, if you can see it, will engage, we'll put tension on the belt, which then will grip the pulley and start turning the blades. That pulley is non-directional. It's not timed, it's nothing, it's just put it on and that's it. So before you put it back on, you put it all together and bolt it down. Make sure the belt is in the correct location. And there's the blade right there, and blade right there. Yeah, I might have hit something pretty good, but that very well could have been the reason. The blade itself doesn't look bad though. Who knows? But little confession, I pretty much knew it was going to be fine. What's this? It's just the grass. Okay, yeah, just the grass. I put the cover back on already. I want to clarify, that nut that goes on top of the spindle, or the pulley that goes on top of the spindle that the nut holds on, that pulley does have like a groove carved into it. Well, I meant like it just goes on, however you can get it on. Just make sure that you're not like crushing it down. There is a slot you have to line up, and it will sink back down, and you have the full threads. So it's not like this where you have to worry about the blade orientation. It doesn't matter, as long as it slips on, you're fine. So I want to clarify that. So let's go ahead and give this a pull, see what happens. Here we go. It was kind of tipped back for a few minutes, so it might be hard to start, but let's see. Man, I don't know if that smoke was because it was on its, I don't think it'd be because I tipped it back because of gravity. I don't know. Smoke is a little concerning. Might be seeing this machine again in the future, but the blades work. Belt is in time. Blades are doing good. I'll probably sharpen them just because they need to be. I'll probably recommend replacing that one, or technically both, because there's no point just buying one blade. I don't even think you can just buy one blade, but either way. So here we go. This process is almost identical for a Toro Time Master. Belt, everything is probably the same. The only real difference is that little bar and the little supports, and there might be a few tiny little things that I do believe the shield is a little different and whatnot, but the basics of this are exactly the same. Get it in time, make sure that you look and make sure before you actually engage the blades are not going to interfere with each other, and that's it. Should be ready to go. Time, if I wasn't recording this, it'd probably take about 15-20 minutes. The tools required, all you really need is a 3/4, a 10mm, ideally a couple extensions, or at least one extension, and a impact driver. If you don't have an impact driver, getting that 3/4 nuts off to get the pulley off, you potentially could get around it. Like I said, I wouldn't recommend it, but if you do need to, and you don't have a 3/4 or an impact, you could do that. Or if you have a 3/4 but no impact, you take like a piece of wood and you kind of jam it in there. Not ideal, but you can do that. When I mean wood and jamming in there, jam it in the blade so the blade can't turn. That way when you take it off, it's going to take some force, but you can take it off. And that's it. Put everything back on, they're good to go. $36 for the Stens belt. They probably have others. I wouldn't recommend them, either Stens or the Exmark or Toro. Ideally, get the name brand one. They will last a lot longer and you'll be a lot happier. Besides that, I'll leave you at that. If you like what you see, keep watching, subscribe. Follow me on Instagram at SmallEngine101. If you have any questions, definitely feel free to leave a comment below. If you have any personalized questions you want me to answer, I do offer memberships. I could definitely offer that service, and I do. So consider becoming a member. But other than that, I'll catch you on the next video. Have a good rest of your day.